Greetings, boys and girls, or literally anyone who's watching. I hope you're having an awesome day. Today, we're going to continue on in our book, Mike's Mystery. Now, Mike's Mystery is a boxcar children book written by Gertrude Chandler Warner. It is the fifth book. It says right here, book 5. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's the fifth book in the series that she wrote. She wrote the first 19 books, and then some ghostwriters wrote probably another 100 boxcar children mysteries. Anyway, this is one that she wrote herself. Today we're going to do chapter 10, and then in another video I will do chapter 11. I hope you're having a great day. All right, we're going to start with chapter number 10. As soon as I can get to it. All right, chapter 10, Mike's Idea. "Oh, Aunt Jane," cried Jessie, "I'm so glad you came. Mrs. Wood is going to live here and makes pies and sell them." "Yes, I know," said Aunt Jane, laughing. "I know all about it. A little bird told me." "Who told you?" asked Benny. "Well, it was a big bird after all," said Aunt Jane. "It was Mr. Gardner, the big boss. He sent a card for me." Aunt Jane went into the big room. Mike went up to her and held out his hand. She gave him the newspaper with a smile. She said, "Maggie found it, and I haven't had time to look at it, but I'm sure it is the right one, Mike." Then everyone tried to tell Aunt Jane about the 2 new rooms. "They have doors," said Benny. 2 doors, 1 in each room. The man who was putting up the doors laughed at Benny. Jessie showed Aunt Jane the barrels of flour. Violet showed her the shelves. There were many shelves already on. There were already many dishes on the shelves. Aunt Jane had brought some things with her. A man came in with them. He had some big kettles and long spoons and some small pans and small spoons. "You have to get your own meals, Mrs. Wood," said Aunt Jane. "I thought the other cooking dishes would be too big for you." "You are right, Miss Alden," said Mrs. Wood. "I must cook for my family, too. Where is Mike?" Mike was not there. "But where is he?" cried Jessie. "He was here just a minute ago." "He's all right," said Mrs. Wood, laughing. "Mike can take care of himself pretty well. He must have some new idea." Mike did have a new idea. He was in the office talking to Mr. Carter. The newspaper was open on the desk, and they both were looking at the picture. "See that man?" asked Mike. "He is the one Spotty growled at. He is wearing a hat, but you can't see if it is blue or not. Spotty must have seen him before." "I have seen him too before," said Mr. Carter, frowning. "Where?" said Mike. "I don't know where," answered Mr. Carter. "Well, he was at the fire," said Mike. "I saw him myself." "And he's been at the mine," said Mr. Carter, "for here is his picture." "I don't think he's a very good man," said Mike. "He looks pretty rough to me." "He looks rough to me, too," said Mr. Carter. "We must keep our eyes open, Mike." There was a rap on the door. "Come in," called Mr. Carter. It was Benny. Benny said, "Oh, here you are, Mike. We lost you. I have another idea." "Sit down," said Mr. Carter, smiling. "We'll all sit down, and you tell us your big idea." "Well," began Benny, "you know Mike was making a new doghouse for Spotty." "No, I didn't know that," said Mr. Carter. "Well, he was," said Benny, "and you know how Mike is. He isn't very neat." "I am too neat," cried Mike. "No, Mike, listen. You had boards in the cellar. You had some boards by the heater, and some boards by the stairs, and some boards on both sides of the room." "Well, yes, I did," said Mike, "but they were neat. They were standing up neatly. But I mean they were on all sides of the cellar." Now here's a picture of Mr. Carter and Mike together. You can see that really good. I hope you can. Cried Benny, "Don't you see? That's why the fire started on the sides of the house." "Good for you, Benny," said Mr. Carter. "The firemen think the fire was set by somebody." I didn't start the fire. I never did," shouted Mike. "Be quiet, Mike," said Mr. Carter sharply. "I never said you did. I said somebody." "Well, who?" asked Mike. "Who would set our house on fire with Spotty in the cellar?" "I don't know yet," said Mr. Carter. Then Benny said, "Think hard, Mike. What did you ever say to make anyone mad at you?" I never said anything. Yes, you must have, said Benny. You know, you talk a lot, Mike. Mike began to think. Maybe I did say something one day. But it was last summer, he said. Maybe I said I was glad Miss Alden didn't sell her ranch to those 3 men. Remember that, Ben? Maybe I said I would know them in a minute if I saw them. Oh, my, said Mr. Carter. Benny said, but Mike, you wouldn't know them because you never saw them. I know it, said Mike. I'm sorry now I said it. Suppose that man in the picture heard me, and he thought I knew him. Well, Mike, said Mr. Carter slowly, you see, that's why the story started, that you set your own fire. The man in the picture may have hurt you, and he was afraid of you. That would make him want to do something to hurt you the first chance he got. We can't prove it, said Benny. We will, though, Mike. You just wait. Yes, Mike, I think we will. Now, boys, I'm going to tell you something. I know you both talk too much, but you must not talk about this at all. I won't, said Benny. I won't, said Mike. The 3 men who wanted to buy Miss Alden's ranch last summer are known to be bad men. When they found the uranium by accident, they did not tell anyone. They tried to buy the land for almost nothing. They were wanted in another state by the FBI. When they came to this state, the FBI caught them and put them in jail. But one of them is out now, I hear. Are you in the FBI? Asked Mike. I work for your grandfather, but I help the FBI too. I think this man may be one of those 3, but you can't see his face clearly in the picture. They were mad because Aunt Jane wouldn't sell the ranch, said Benny. Right, said Mr. Carter. He may do something to the mine if we don't stop him. So we are having 2 more night watchmen. Your mother will be perfectly safe up here. Let's go and help them settle things for the night, said Benny. Things were going very well without them. Everyone was rushing around fixing the rooms. A real table was set up for the pies. 1 barrel of flour was open, and Pat came in with some more men. They were bringing in big cans of cherries and peaches and blueberries and apples. Oh, I love those pies. Of those, though, cherry pie is my favorite. My wife knows that. She makes amazing cherry pies. They had great bags of sugar. There were piles of pie tins. Oh, how kind everyone is, said Mrs. Wood. At last the oven worked, the refrigerator worked, and the sink worked. The cans of beautiful fruit were ready for pies. The rolling pins and boards were ready on the table. Benny and Mike were in time to help set up the beds, and Jessie and Violet began to put up on the white sheets. Then Mike surprised them all. He said, Ma, I'd rather stay down at the house with Ben. You see, Miss Alden fixed up a nice room for me. She said I could bring all my things I have and have Spotty in my room. I don't think it will be very nice for me to refuse it. Well, Mike, cried Mr. Carter, you certainly are going to be a very nice, kind boy. I'm very glad you're going to stay with us, said Aunt Jane with a smile. Yes, Mike, said his mother. That was very thoughtful of you. I want to go with Ben, said Mike. We can talk. Right, said Henry. You can certainly talk. I will take care of you, Ma, said Pat. Yes, said his mother, smiling. Pat will take care of me, and Mr. Carter says there are 6 night watchmen now instead of 4. I wonder why. Mike and Benny looked at each other. They did not wonder at all, because they knew why there were 6 watchmen instead of 4. And that's the end of Chapter 10. Chapter 11, if you're around to watch it, is called Pie Day. My father, when asked what's his favorite pie, says yes. Or he says hot or cold. Anyway, have a great day.